All right, sixth graders, we are at Eastern Europe and Western Russia, Lesson 3, Life in Eastern Europe and Western Russia. This is the final one for the unit, so once we get this done, we'll all be on the review and good to go for your test on Wednesday. How does geography influence the way people live? So again, we're looking at that. Even though this is talking about life, geography is still important because the landscape affects how people live. Once again, you've got your terms to know, and we're going to go ahead and skip this guy again. We'll talk about this stuff in class. All right, number 1, describe the transfer of industry to private ownership in post-Soviet Russia. So what you had is you had most ownership, which won't really fit right here. Most ownership went to the oligarchs. So even after the Soviet Union ended, the people who had all the power still pretty much had all the power. They just didn't have complete authority over the entire government. They still had all the money. They still had all, the privilege and everything, though. All right, flipping it over for number 2, we need to highlight the names of 2 men who have served as presidents of Russia. Now, it may sound interesting, but since the Soviet Union ended, they've literally only had like 2 presidents. They had Boris Yeltsin, who was back in the 90s, and then Vladimir Putin was elected in 2000. So he's pretty much been the dude for a very, very long time. And some people, attribute him more as a dictator. Some people still consider him to be a democratic kind of president type thing. All sorts of stuff. All right, number 3, what caused Boris Yeltsin to resign? Well, he was blamed for being unable to solve problems in Chechnya. So we're going to put problems in Chechnya. Chechnya is a predominantly Islamic southwestern little state in Russia that has wanted its freedom for a very, very long time, but for whatever reason, Russia wants to keep that area on their own, and so there's been a lot of problems there, a lot of attacks and stuff like that. A few years ago, there was a Chechen rebel attack on a school that killed, I think, 46 people or something like that. It was very, very bad. All right, number 4, why have so many Eastern Europeans immigrated to other parts of Europe or to the United States? So they're trying to escape political oppression in Russia because, sometimes if you speak out against Putin and the rest of his dudes, you sometimes get arrested for realistic reasons or not. And they're also looking for better economic opportunities. So Russia, for the positives that it does have, it's not always the greatest place to find a job depending on where you're at in that country. It is the world's largest country, and most of it is, not really livable. So people are trying to find places in other areas of the world. Okay, number 5. How did geographical barriers affect the development of Slavic culture in Eastern Europe? So the geography thing, you have these different areas. We talked about it before where there's a lot of mountains in Eastern Russia. So it really helped them all develop different Slavic groups and their own languages. Because while they have some similarities, you're not going to have the same language exactly spoken in Bulgaria as you do in Latvia. You're not going to have the same language spoken in the Czech Republic as you do in Belarus. They're very different in that regard. And help them develop different cultures and languages. All right, let's move on to question number 6. And we're slowly but surely getting there. Okay, read the text on the right. Highlight the names of the religions that are dominant in Eastern European countries. So again, we're talking about religions a lot here. We have Eastern Orthodox Church, which is part of Christianity. So Christianity is the main one. There are a lot of Roman Catholics in other countries, but remember, Eastern Orthodox Church, Roman Catholic, they're still considered to be Christian. And then you have the majority of Albanians are Muslim, so Muslim, Islam is that. And even though it just says they're a minority, we're still going to go ahead and we're going to highlight Jews because they are there. Again, the majority in this region is going to be Christian. There is some Muslim, and then you have a very smaller amount of Jews who are still there. Okay, number 7. What does the word devolution refer to? So it refers to when a strong central government surrenders to a local authority. So that's basically what happened after the Soviet Union broke up. So strong central, and we'll abbreviate government, GOVT, surrenders to local authority. So this is what happened when the Soviet Union broke up. Instead of everything being controlled through Moscow and the Soviet Union, you now had Russia, and then you had these other countries that now had their own control. Places like Albania were able to go ahead and say, you know what, we're our own country, we can do things our own way. All right, number 8, how has daily life changed in Russia since the fall of the Soviet Union? So you have a return to national traditions, because nationality, as far as like being Russian and stuff like that, really didn't happen under the Soviet Union because they cracked down on anything that was individualized, religion, arts, stuff like that. When they're not there, now you can have that stuff come back. And then you also had the influence of outside cultures. You can go to downtown Moscow and you can go to a McDonald's now. They have a lot of American style stuff there. Blue jeans are quite popular in lots of places. So they have a lot of outside influence that they weren't able to have before. All right, number 9, we need to highlight the names of Eastern European countries where a large percentage of the population works in agriculture. So that's actually going to be a whole lot of them. We have Albania, Romania, Serbia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. These are all southeastern European countries. They're over there kind of north of Turkey, over near Romania, to the east of Italy and stuff like that. Okay, flip it over for our last page. Number 10, read the text on the left. Highlight one way that Russia has kept some control over Eastern European countries. So even though they don't have political control, they're still exerting a lot of control in terms of economics. Russia has a lot of oil and gas reserves that are delivered from Siberia. And so what they do is they can essentially hold on to that oil, or they can raise the prices, or they can kind of hold that stuff hostage, so that way people have to pay them, or people have to give them a certain amount of leeway on what they do. All right, number 11 would have been 2 setbacks in the economies of Eastern Europe since the collapse of the USSR. So there has been very high unemployment. I guess one of the positives of the Soviet Union is that they had a lot of jobs because they forced people to work industry jobs like making things in factories. And if you've already seen this before, you'll see it again, the 2008 financial crisis. Now, even though 2008 was, 10 years ago, there are still some countries who are still kind of coming back from that. All right, last 2 writing prompts. What were some of the challenges Russia faced following the collapse of the Soviet Union? Again, the entire last couple, parts of this section are all talking about that. Find something in there, write it down. Number 2, what influence has Western popular culture had in Eastern Europe? Again, that's in the last couple areas of this. Find some stuff, write it down. Give us a few responses there about how Western culture, i.e. our culture, has affected Russia. And that is it. You guys are now done with Unit 5 for Europe.